one point or another, I lost my accounts. I made some stupid decisions. I went down that rabbit hole and I lost them. For a couple of months, I fought to try to get them back, but I was having some issues. It kind of screwed me up mentally to have all that built up and done and reach payout and then lose it all. But it would always bother me, even on my really good days with some of these other prop firms, because no other prop firm gives you this ability to copy trade 20 accounts like Apex does. Yeah, so I'd have a phenomenal day and it would add up to maybe a quarter of what I could have potentially made making those same profits with Apex. And that was always in the back of my mind.
Gates Adams here on behalf of Apex Trader Funding, and I'm here today with Trader Taylor Taylor. And I have had an opportunity to chat several times before. He's actually been a guest on the Trader Bacon Show. We've built a little bit of a friendship outside of this process, which has just been such a blessing to me, and I appreciate you for that. Thanks for hanging out with me today and sharing some of your story, because quite frankly, it's been too long. What's been going on?
Not a whole lot, if I'm being honest. It's just been the day-to-day like everybody else, getting on the computer, spending the time, doing the work, trying to make it like everyone else.
Well, we were talking, obviously, as we were getting ready to start recording here, and you said something that surprised me, that I guess it's been about 2 years since we've spoke. I didn't think it had been that long. So what's been going on for the last 2 years? Where you been?
I had some success a couple years ago with Apex. After I got over that initial learning curve, I was able to get a couple payouts and made some good money. And like we all do at one point or another, I lost my accounts. I made some stupid decisions. I went down that rabbit hole and I lost them. For a couple of months, I fought to try to get them back, but I was having some issues. It kind of screwed me up mentally to have all that built up and done and reach payout and then lose it all. So I ended up kind of getting away from Apex for a couple of months. Well, close to a year. Traded with some other prop firms, had some success here and there, but it would always bother me, even on my really good days with some of these other prop firms, because no other prop firm gives you this ability to copy trade 20 accounts like Apex does. Yeah, so I'd have a phenomenal day and it would add up to maybe a quarter of what I could have potentially made making those same profits with Apex. And that was always in the back of my mind. Me and my wife would talk about it all the time and it would just bother me. So beginning of this year, I think around the end of January, beginning of February, I got on Apex website, noticed they were running like an 80% off sale with an activation promo as well. Took advantage of it, passed the account. I got 20 50K accounts, passed them in 8 or 9 trading days. And on February 14th, I started on the PAs I have now with 20 50K accounts. I'm going strong. I've already been approved for 2 payouts. One of them's hit my account, and I'm on track to put in another one on Friday. So I'm excited.
We talk a lot about trading and, trading psychology and some of the stuff that hits the head certain ways, right? And one thing that there's always this common theme of, no matter how good things are going, there's just this level of dissatisfaction. I wonder if that sort of came into play when you're seeing, I could have if I'm over here, but I'm not. Now, when we're talking about hitting, getting an entry at the absolute low or the absolute high or whatever the case may be, obviously that's not a sustainable way to manage that. But when you started to see that, hey, my opportunity is greater here, did you experience any sort of like regret over not sticking it out? Or was it really a good position for you to be in to see that more clearly before coming back?
Yeah, there definitely was a level of, or there was that feeling of regret and feeling like I shouldn't have made the switch away from Apex. It was kind of like that grass is greener theory where, you see something else and you get caught up in a sales pitch and you believe that it's exactly what it's made out to be and everything else. And it just, we all have to go through that lesson. We do it as kids with the stuff that doesn't matter. And then we grow up, we do it in the real world. And this is one of those experiences that I had to go through. It was a good experience for me, I think. If I'm being honest with you, it really brought home this idea that I've always had in my mind that I don't need to make $1,000 per account in a day to be a profitable, successful trader. Me and my wife have talked about it thousands of times. Like, oh, if I could get 20 funded accounts with Apex and I can make $100 a day, why would I need to make more than that? Like, who's making $2,000 in an hour, 5 days a week? I know there are people, but I don't know any of them. The idea that I could make $2,000 in less than an hour and then spend the rest of the day playing golf or doing whatever the hell I want to do that's the whole driving force behind me doing this every day. Apex is the reason I got into futures trading, and that is the reason I got back with Apex, is because every single day, especially on my good days, I would be furious with myself that I was stuck with a prop firm that only gave me a handful of accounts. I also found out about Apex's updated guidelines. What is it? Apex 3.0?
3.0 now, I think.
Loved them. I loved everything about it. I think that was a really good move on Apex's part. I love everything about it. I have it pulled up here on my computer. I have it up every day, so I have it for reference. And it's just like like everything aligned right when it needed to align. It worked perfectly.
And that's a great point. I mean, and I have this conversation frequently. I think I mentioned it on Trader Bacon's show just this past week. But what I have found is traders who embrace the rules tend to do really well. If you're fighting against it, even if it's just an emotional, like I'm going to follow the rules, but I'm not happy about it. There is just this sort of internal struggle. And I think for me, and I know this is sort of the way that I've been looking at it the last couple of months as I've continued on my journey and continuing to find higher levels of success, is that these rules are designed to create more solid traders, right? You know, it teaches risk management. It's a little bit by force, but it still teaches risk management. It teaches proper strategy. And I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where we go. If we're trading prop firm, we're going to have some set of rule structure. But ultimately, when we have a rule structure that is designed with the long-term vision of live traders trading real apex money, that consistency of concept really is a great guideline for me to be a more successful trader on my own, whether I'm continuing to trade as a prop firm trader or trading my own funds. So I love hearing you say that. I think it just sort of confirms something that I've been saying over and over because I keep hearing it. I love seeing that consistency. And as we continue to build more and more live traders, we know that we're building an army of disciplined traders. And a disciplined trader is a successful trader.
For me, that was part of the bulk of my struggle. Getting to a point of consistency was obviously everybody over leverages, especially whenever you get in that revenge mode or like you take a loss or a trade is running against you. I had to try to shake that off and then also combine it with the idea that I always said at the end of the day, why didn't I just trade a smaller position size? Why didn't I just trade a smaller position size? I don't need to make this much money each day. Yeah, it's nice, if a trade keeps running and you make more, but it wasn't until I sat back and I aligned with what the rules are trying to get you to do. I mean, there's a reason for it, and then reduce my position size and aim for the end of the month. Don't aim for the end of the day. My goal isn't to make it to the end of the day. My goal is to make it to the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the quarter. Because if you're only aiming for the end of the day, you're more than likely going to put yourself in a situation you shouldn't be in. That's my opinion.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree, and I can agree with that as logically as I can have any other conversation. Yet what we find is that when we're in the charts, logic goes out the window and emotion starts to take over. I've had days like that recently. Every trader I know continues to have days like that. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful is how frequently does that happen?
Yeah.
But it is this constant battle. And I think that as we continue to grow as traders, we have to continue to grow in terms of who and what we are. That's a big commitment of mine, is trying to find other ways where I can develop my self-discipline. I can prove to myself in various ways that I am a disciplined person, which now means that I can be more convinced in my own moment that I'm a disciplined trader. Now, looking back, as you've gone through, the struggles of the emotional reaction to blowing your accounts, year and a half, couple years ago, whenever that was, and sort of finding that new momentum and coming back up. Is there anything that, like, if you could talk to yourself from a year and a half ago, is there any advice you would give yourself as you're going through that moment?
The single most important thing is what I was just saying, is stop over leveraging, stop over leveraging, stop over leveraging, stop over leveraging. Because I don't trade based off of P&L. I don't put my stop loss where I can afford to put my stop loss. I put my stop loss where I believe price action invalidates my trade idea. All I trade is in MNQ technically. Everybody says, oh, I trade with a 20 point. I trade with a 30 point. I trade with a 40 point stop loss. I don't have any preset when it comes to my stop loss. My stop loss is 100% based on price action. I put my stop loss where the trade idea is no longer valid for me. If you want me to be transparent with you, that might be 120 points from where we are right now. But that's why I trade 1 to 2 micros. On 120 points, I can afford $240. If it goes 440, if it goes against me, that's not going to blow me out of the water. My accounts aren't going to be in jeopardy. I don't think that's where we're going. And I align that with the idea that if I'm willing to risk 120 points, the reward has to be more than 120 points. I'm not going to risk 120 points to make a 40-point trade. To me, that's not a valid setup. There are times where I talk to people that I'll ask, I'm part of a big Discord community, and people will ask, how my day went, what trade I took, blah, blah, blah. And I tell them, I was looking at this is my stop loss, this is my take profit. And that's when I start getting all the geniuses who can tell you everything I'm doing wrong, saying you can't trade with a 60-point stop loss. You can't trade with a 100-point stop loss. And I say, okay, reach out to me in 3 weeks and we'll have this conversation again.
Right.
And then all I do is I say, look, today, or I don't know how many days it's been, but I haven't taken a red day since, or I've had one red day since February 14th, one red day. I think today makes 27 trading days on the account. And I can only attribute that to what I just said. Yes, there are days I go into drawdown $300 and I come out a profit on $100 on the day, but that's because I got stopped out early. I didn't give the trade the time to run to full take profit, but I'm fine with that because if I can make $100 on the day, like I said earlier, that's $2,000.
That's an amazing set of results. I mean, when you look at, the historical component of, I don't know how many days that is.
Yeah, I think today marks 27.
27. So 1 out of 27 is in the red. The fact is that anybody can tell you their opinion, but at the end of the day, it's, your results speak for themselves, not only in this moment, but, even as far back as a couple of years ago when we first started communicating, barring having that sort of emotional reaction to just a situation that happens, right? And that's just part of the growth curve. But your trading has always been consistent. Your ability to capitalize on 20 accounts and make that incredibly fruitful with very small wins on a day-to-day consistent basis just proves the model of, I don't have to swing for the fences. I don't have to get that home run or grand slam every day. I can just go get that single base hit and go on with my day and make what for a lot of people is going to be life-changing money.
Well, and I'm glad you said it that way, base hit, because I talk about that all the more. And I do a lot of live streaming, talking about price action, talking about what I'm looking at in the charts. And one of the things I talk about every day is base hits. They don't build a baseball team based off how many home runs everybody can hit. They base it off of their ability to get on first base. They don't care what you do after that. If you can get on first base, your ability to score is significantly better than somebody who just has a good home run record. Right. And I feel like trading is no different. And I like to work out, so I always use the fitness metaphor. Is if your goal in the gym is to be able to bench press, let's say 405 pounds, you don't go to the gym on day one and put 405 on the bar. You start with a reasonable amount and you work your way up. That's going to take you potentially years to get to that goal. You go in, you incrementally stair step your way up. You do what you can, and there are days where you're going to try. Oh, I think I can go up 30 pounds today, and what happens? Oh, I hurt my shoulder. I messed up my elbow. Now I can't work out for 2 weeks. Trading is no different. You come in and you try to overreach, you put yourself back 2 weeks, and then you got to deal with that. Nobody's going to stand behind you and say, man, you shouldn't have done that today. That's on you. That's on me. It wasn't until I fully embraced that I got to where I am now.
It's really easy to say the word slow and steady wins the race, but it's it's a whole different ballgame when you talk about actually putting that into action, not just today, not just tomorrow, but every single day, no matter what happens. And it's not easy. If you're willing to stick it out, if you're willing to put in the work, the payout's pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah, they're exciting.
Well, listen, man, always a pleasure to get to chat with you. We definitely need to do this a little bit more frequently here moving forward. So definitely keep me posted on what's going on. And, we'll catch up in the next month or two and see how you're coming along.
Sounds good, buddy. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
My pleasure, brother. We'll talk to you soon.